Story number 1, The Laughter in the Empty Seats. If you enjoy this content and want to see more, please subscribe and turn on notifications to support the channel. Tom, a projectionist with a love for classic horror, found himself working a late shift at the creaky Crestwood Theater. It was a Tuesday night, and the turnout for the Black and White Monster Movie Festival was dismal. By the final film, House of Wax, only a single couple remained in the cavernous auditorium. Tom watched them from his booth, a sliver of light cutting through the darkness. Halfway through the movie, the couple left abruptly. Tom, used to the pre-closing exodus, shrugged and started prepping the next film. The silence in the auditorium was thick, broken only by the whirring of the projector and the occasional creak of the aging building. As Vincent Price's villainous laughter echoed through the speakers, Tom felt a prickle of unease. He glanced at the screen, then back at the rows of empty seats. A soft giggle, barely audible over the soundtrack, reached his ears. Tom froze. It came again, closer this time, a child's high-pitched sound. He checked the security cameras, all clear. The rational part of his brain scoffed at ghosts, but the hairs on his arms stood on end. The laughter escalated. It wasn't playful, but tinged with malice. Tom's heart pounded. He grabbed a flashlight and crept down the aisle, the beam cutting through the inky blackness. Each rustle of popcorn or creak of a seat made him jump. He reached the middle, the source of the sound seemingly all around him. The laughter stopped. Suddenly, a figure darted across the aisle, a fleeting glimpse of white in the darkness. Tom's breath hitched. He aimed the flashlight and saw an empty seat, a single red balloon tied to the armrest. The balloon bobbed gently, its reflection in his eyes mocking. Panic surged through him. He sprinted back to the projection booth, his heart hammering. He slammed the door shut, fumbling with the lock. He scanned the room from the safety of his glass-walled haven, searching for any sign of the figure. There was nothing. The movie continued. Vincent Price cackled through the speakers, but the sound no longer held any charm. Every creak, every flicker of the projector light, sent shivers down Tom's spine. The red balloon, lodged in his memory, symbolized a childhood fear he hadn't even known he possessed. He finished the last reel on autopilot, the unsettling experience gnawing at him. As the credits rolled, he checked the auditorium one last time. The red balloon was gone. The next morning, Tom discovered a news report tucked amongst the local papers. A young girl had gone missing from a carnival the night prior. The only clue, a red balloon. Tom stared at the picture, a cold dread settling in his stomach. The girl in the photo wore a familiar white dress, the same fleeting glimpse he'd seen in the darkness. The Crestwood Theater had a long and storied past, whispers of accidents and disappearances echoing through the decades. Maybe, Tom thought, some stories are better left untold, some laughter better left unheard. Story number 2, Found Footage Found. Sarah, a budding filmmaker, stumbled upon a dusty VHS tape at a local flea market. The faded label simply read Elmwood Theater, 1988. Intrigued, she bought it for a pittance, hoping for some grainy home movie magic. What she found was far more disturbing. The tape began with shaky footage of a bustling theater lobby, the Elmwood marquee advertising a horror double feature. The cameraman, a young man with nervous energy, panned across the crowd, finally settling on two figures, a teenage girl with bright red hair and a boy with a goofy grin. Sarah recognized them instantly, her parents, on their first date. The scene shifted to the darkened auditorium. The scratchy audio picked up snippets of dialogue, the boy, John, her father, trying to impress Sarah's mom, Emily, with witty remarks that landed with a thud. The flickering light struggled to illuminate the rows of empty seats, and Sarah found herself oddly tense. Suddenly, the camera jolted. John chuckled nervously. "Did you see that?" he whispered. The footage zoomed in on a shadowed corner of the back row. A figure sat hunched over, shrouded in darkness. It wasn't human. Long, bony fingers twitched on an armrest. A scream ripped from Emily, and the camera jostled violently. The figure lunged, the frame filled with a horrifying, distorted face. The tape cut to static. Sarah's mind reeled. Was this some elaborate prank? A staged movie scene John forgot about? But the raw fear in her parents' voices was undeniable. The tape continued, a series of increasingly disturbing snippets. Static interspersed with glimpses of the figure, each time closer, more grotesque. Then, a single, terrifying image, the back of the fleeing couple, the figure's elongated hand reaching out from the darkness, seemingly inches from grabbing Emily. The tape ended abruptly. Sarah spent the next few days consumed by the footage. She reached out to John, now a stoic man with a hint of sadness in his eyes. He confirmed the tape's authenticity. That night, he explained, "We got spooked and ran out. We never went back." He revealed a long-forgotten memory, a newspaper clipping detailing a fire at the Elmwood Theater shortly after their disastrous date. The cause was undetermined, the building demolished soon after. Sarah's fear morphed into morbid curiosity. The figure. The fire. What was the connection? Driven by a filmmaker's desire for truth and a daughter's yearning to understand, Sarah embarked on a local history dig. She scoured old newspapers, interviewed former residents, and finally unearthed a chilling truth. The Elmwood Theater had a dark past. Rumors swirled about a disgruntled projectionist who vanished after a film malfunction. Some claimed he'd been trapped in the burning celluloid, his spirit forever bound to the theater. The fire, according to newly discovered documents, originated in the projection booth. Could the figure be a manifestation of the projectionist's anger, fueled by the flames? Sarah returned to the empty lot where the Elmwood once stood. Holding the VHS in her trembling hand, she felt a cold presence brush against her. A whisper, a distorted echo of the scream from the tape, sent shivers down her spine. She knew she wouldn't sleep that night. But in the face of the unknown, Sarah felt a spark ignite within her, a determination to capture the truth, even if it meant revisiting the darkness. The Elmwood story wasn't over, and Sarah, armed with her camera and her father's past, was ready to face the horror within the found footage. Story number 3, The Last Drive-In Massacre, inspired by the Ketty Cabin murders. The California summer night crackled with a heat that mirrored the tension in Sarah's gut. She gripped the steering wheel of her beat-up Ford, headlights cutting through the dusty road leading to the Starlight Drive-In. It was a local legend, abandoned for decades, rumored to be haunted by the ghosts of a brutal massacre. Sarah, a true crime podcaster with a thirst for the macabre, had finally secured permission to film a special episode there. Her cameraman, Ben, a nervous college student, fidgeted beside her. "Are you sure this is a good idea, Sarah?" he stammered, his voice barely audible over the cicada's incessant chirping. Sarah, known for her fearless spirit, chuckled. "Don't worry, Ben. Ghosts aren't real. Besides, think of the downloads this will get." The drive-in loomed ahead, a skeletal silhouette against the star-dusted sky. The rusted screen towered over the cracked asphalt, casting long, ominous shadows. The concession stand stood like a decaying mausoleum, its windows' vacant eyes staring back at them. A shiver danced down Sarah's spine despite the oppressive heat. Setting up their equipment, an unsettling silence pressed down on them. Ben kept glancing nervously around, his gaze lingering on the swaying trees that seemed to whisper secrets in the breeze. As twilight bled into darkness, Sarah began filming, her voice a beacon in the eerie stillness. She recounted the events of the Ketty Cabin murders, a gruesome unsolved case from the 1980s where 4 people were brutally murdered during a camping trip not far from the drive-in. Theories ranged from a random attack to a targeted hit. Suddenly, a loud screech echoed through the night, sending a jolt through them. A rusted sign, hanging precariously by a single nail, had finally given way. Ben yelped, dropping the camera, while Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. They scrambled to gather their equipment, the unsettling feeling amplifying. Sarah, ever the professional, tried to maintain composure. "See, Ben? Just the wind messing with things," she forced a smile, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. As they started packing, a flicker of movement caught Sarah's eye in the rearview mirror. A pale figure, shrouded in darkness, stood at the edge of the concession stand window. It was gone in a flash, but the memory seared itself into her mind. Panic rising, they loaded their equipment and sped away, the screeching tires echoing their hurried escape. Back at her studio, reviewing the footage, a cold sweat gripped Sarah. There, in the split second after the sign fell, captured on camera, was the figure again, a skeletal face with hollow eyes staring out from the darkness. Driven by her journalistic instincts, Sarah dove deeper into the Ketty Cabin case. She contacted a retired detective who revealed a chilling detail. At the time, a drifter was spotted near the crime scene, a man known for haunting the local drive-in. He was never apprehended. Sarah's stomach churned. The figure in the footage, the rumors of the drive-in, it all started to click. Armed with the footage and newfound information, Sarah contacted the local police, a flicker of hope battling against the lingering fear. The authorities were intrigued. The footage, while grainy, offered a potential lead they hadn't considered before. As news of the investigation spread, Sarah became a reluctant local hero. The Starlight Drive-In, once a forgotten relic of the past, was thrust back into the spotlight, a dark reminder of a brutal crime. The investigation remained open, but the renewed attention and Sarah's courage spurred hope. The ghosts of the Ketty Cabin murders, both literal and figurative, might finally find some semblance of peace. If you enjoy this content and want to see more, please subscribe and turn on notifications to support the channel.